Okay, having a recap of verse 8 and 9, which we did last time. Starting with verse 7, we have been hearing what is called as Guru Uvacha. That means Guru has started giving out what his answers are to some of the not direct questions, but questions raised by the poet in this particular composition. So how does he go about answering it? So in 7, when you read, when you try to reconnect with verse 7, which was the verse before last week, the Guru speaks about all the characteristics, or you can say the pointers to which we can say is the nature of the changing, or the one that is seen today and accepted as truth. So that is referred to as the anatma, the not self, or the drishyam. And what is changeless and what is the essence is referred to as drashta, or the seer, or the essence. So after having said that in verse 7, he goes on to further clarify as to what is this nature of the drashta. And he uses a very specific word. The Guru uses the word Atman. And when he uses the word Atman in English, the translation will go as Atman, the self. Now the word Atman by itself means self. But since we are not conversant with the word Atman, the word self has been added so that we are relating to the understanding of Atman as what we call as the self and the identity which we have within us. This identity that we have within us is primary. It is not based on anything. The ego, which is often in English it is referred to as the ego, is not the essential identity. It is that which with which we connect attributes which are always transient, effervescent, changing. So whenever we say the ego and the self is the same, we have to be cautious because the logic of explanation does not permit it. Though in essence it is permitted. That means if I were to be established in absolute truth, it is permitted. But because I am not established in absolute truth and I am still a seeker, and I am making this progression from being a seeker to be the final state of oneness, I have to make this grammatical, or you can say thought-based clarification to within my mind as to what is the Atman, what is the self, and what is the ego. So here the Guru says the Atman, the self, is eternal and is the witness of the entire world. And then it alone is the supreme support of the world. With this understanding of the real and the unreal, the individual soon becomes the seer of the absolute truth. So this idea that when the individual, the self, recognizes that the limited self is nothing but the very support of this universe, the supreme support of this universe, support of the entire world of manifestation, it enables an understanding. This identification with the self or the Atman, thereby having clarity of being the supreme support, enables the understanding of differentiation between real and unreal. Had it not been for the awakening to the understanding of the Atman being the support, this will always be fuzzy, because the assertion based differentiation, which is now my condition. So every seeker going through the path of Vedanta, going through different scriptures like Tattva Bodh, Drigdrishya Vivek, Atma Bodh, Bhajagovindam, and the various chapters of Bhagavad Gita, will start what is known as the intellectual assertive seeking. In the intellectual assertive seeking, last week we tried to assess and analyze what is this differentiation, how do I use this technique called seer and seen. It is an intellectual assertion. It is not based on understanding. And why do I say it's not based on understanding? If the understanding is there, the assertion is not required. The assertive approach is not required. It is only when the understanding is missing that we have to make this assertion, this assertive. So very often, if one were to be in a daze, or one were to be not perfectly oriented into waking state, halfway between sleep and waking, when you just wake up in the morning, you have to give yourself some time before the understanding emerges that you have now stepped into a waking condition and the entire cognition has come up to existence, and then you can do away with what was your condition prior to that particular state. That is called total understanding of the waking state. Now here, when we do Drigdrishya Vivek, or when you do seer and seen methodology, we are nowhere near this deepest understanding that I am the universal support of this entire universe. We are nowhere near that. So where are we? We are trying to reach there, but in the trying to reach there, we are making small steps, or you can say minute gains towards understanding the unreal as unreal. So that is called minute steps, because we haven't yet gone to the state where we totally submerge ourselves into reality. Should we do that, then this becomes trivial. Then this understanding the idea that I need to differentiate between real and unreal becomes trivial. And that is what the poet here says, that this person for whom it is trivial, he is called Paramartha Darshi. That means absolute clarity in the vision of the truth. Paramartha Darshi. Darshan itself means truth, vision, and Paramartha means truth, that which is the essence of entire universe. So you become a visionary of the truth. So you fail to recognize, fail to cognize, or fail to give value to that which is unreal. So that has been the state of all these great masters who have taken us to that state. And here also, when these verses are being composed, they are composed in the name of a teacher. So by saying Guru Ruvacha, you are saying the teacher has said this. So this idea that he is a Paramartha Darshi is very important. Towards the end of the commentary, Swamiji gives one specific note, that here in this verse, it is also the word Siddha is also used. So Bhavati Ha Siddha. So Siddha is a very technical phrase in Sanskrit, and very different schools of philosophy have used it differently. So there is a school of philosophy which gives rise to what is called as the Hatha Yoga, or the path of Raja Yoga, wherein you speak about awakening the Kundalini powers, etc. In that tradition, the word Siddha is associated with Siddhi, that means some level of supernatural powers. But in Vedanta, there is no recognition of supernatural powers. There is only Viveka, that means only recognition between real and unreal. The one who has recognized the real is not affected by the unreal, and that person becomes a Siddha and a Paramartha Darshi. There is nothing else that is expected. Whereas in the other schools, the Siddha can mean someone who has supernatural powers, can walk on water, can fly in the air, and so many other things. So that is, Swamiji makes the differentiation, saying in this composition, I have referred to it as the Vedantic goal of a Paramartha Darshi. So that is the Siddha. In verse 9, Swamiji has said, the Guru speaks, actually continues, in which he says, I alone am the reality, which is the substratum of this world, and anything other than which is a mere appearance. Now this is a very, very important verse, and Swamiji's commentary gives out very big elaborative understanding of what we mean by Sarvam Abhasa Matram. Everything that is not true, not the essence, can only be an appearance. Now this is a very clear, what I would call as almost autobiographical statement or autobiographical experience for the master, for the Guru. But this is not autobiographical for the seeker, because whatever is Abhasa Matram for the teacher is extremely the reality for the seeker. How does the difference occur? When will it not appear like Abhasa and become real? And when will it actually become a appearance only. So Swamiji explains why that which is abhasa or appearance for the master isn't an appearance for you, for the seeker, is because of 5 elements, 5 characteristics. So Swamiji says sentimental attachment to the world. So one of the first characteristic. Then attachment to our own opinions, body, personal sorrows, likes, dislikes, and so on. Attachments to the things and beings of the world. Unclear understanding of the reality, and the habit of thinking of the world as real from innumerable past lives. Now, if you look upon each one of this, they are not independent, different pointers. They are all pointers to the same condition. At different times, we are feeling differently. So, at some times, we feel that the world is real because it is evoking an emotional response in me. So, a lot of people say, I don't trust what I see, but I feel utterly anxious within myself. Is my anxiety real? How can anxiety be unreal? So we give a lot of validity to our sentiment, to our experience, visceral feelings, etc. Because though intellectually I seem to register some concepts that I have picked up from Vedanta and I can relate it to the world, but deep within myself I struggle to feel the same way. So that is sentimental attachment. Similarly, how attachments itself function. So in some places, attachments is to opinions, not to reality. In some places, attachment is to things and not to opinions. So sometimes we often experience this, that we say, psychologically I understand what it is, but physically I am attached. So someone were to say, I'm going to throw this in the some article in the home, in the house, which has fulfilled its requirement, its purpose, and someone else in the family might say, let me throw it in the bin. Instantaneously, the person who is attached to it physically or having the psychological connection with it as an object will feel some part of them is being taken off from the family, from the house. So that is what attachment to objects, things in a particular way in which transcends all rationality. So this is how what is an appearance to the master isn't at all an appearance, is true, real, three-dimensional, completely and totally part of my being. And when I say my being, I mean almost as if it is part of me. It's not apart from me. So a lot of people give examples of family members, give examples of pets, etc. So many things can be related with this condition. But in the Vedantic sense, all of this is only abhasa. It is only an appearance, does not have any tattva, does not have any. So even the word tattva is used in the line, in this particular, the first line of this first line. In the second line, what does the teacher say? Because we have understood that tattva alone is truth and rest everything is abhasa, appearance, and hence from where can there be fear to me? Now here the teacher has expounded on a very, very simple but a profound aspect about what is the nature of the one who is established in the tattva. So one of the biggest analysis people have made and said, fear emanates from the cessation of the recognition that I am. So the recognition that I am and the cessation of that recognition, that is from where fear emerges. So most of the people, very ordinary people or very profound and very learned people also, often shudder at the experience of losing the identification of the I-ness. And we relate it with death. And therefore people often say, I am afraid of death. They are not afraid of death as an event. Everyone who says I am afraid of death does not mean that death is an event. Because for anyone else, someone else's death is an event to me. But my death isn't an event to me. But what am I afraid of when I say I'm afraid of death? The cessation of this identification of self. But am I sure that when there is death, this cessation will occur? Or am I unclear as to what is going to happen? So that is why a lot of people investigate, try to go into scientific analysis saying, what is the process of death? What happens after death? And Vedanta simply says all that is irrelevant. All those discussions, all that research, all that identification, all that understanding is totally rubbish. There is no need. Why don't we need? Because the moment we connect to the Tattva, this essential fear and all the related fears will vanish instantaneously. Now, when I say essential fear, one might be quick to summarize and say, I don't have this essential fear. It is not that. All the remaining fears actually emanate from the essential fears. So if I don't recognize the Tattva and I just recognize the Abhasa, the appearance, there are fears associated with the appearance. And those are the fears which get confounded worst and most difficult to get rid of. Therefore, for the great master who is giving out this verse says, there is no fear, there is no bhayam. Then what is the opposite of bhayam? So people will say abhayam, no fear. No, the Guru says anandam. Just a very completely diverse way of looking at it. He is not saying the opposite of fear is fearlessness. Because in fearlessness also there is an element of fear. So he says, no, forget bhayam. There is no bhayam, there is only anandam. So how does he relate to that? In that he says, parananda swarupa eva. So I am in my essential nature, which is nothing but supreme happiness, and that alone is my condition. There is no scope for bhayam. So that is what the Guru has said. So whenever we analyze the word fear, we have to immediately analyze the word appearance. Because in our fear arises because of appearance. And appearance arises because of the five factors that Swamiji has enumerated. One can expand it further to clearly have recognition of one's own confirmation that what is it that keeps me. Very often people ask the question, what keeps you awake at night, and such things, which are in terms of language it is acceptable. In Vedanta, anyone will say, if that is the question, the answer is everything that is abhasa, appearance, and I give validity, that will keep you awake. There is no way that abhasa will ever leave you. So that is the Vedantic discussion.